Mark didn't think much of the notification when it first appeared. It was just another message, or at least that's what he assumed when he glanced at his phone briefly before setting it back down on the table. He had been busy all evening, moving things around his apartment, trying to reorganize after a long week. The last thing on his mind was checking messages. It wasn't until later, when everything had settled into a quiet stillness, that he picked up his phone again and noticed something strange. The message wasn't from a contact he recognized, and yet the name attached to it was his own. At first, he thought it was just a syncing error, maybe something to do with his accounts overlapping or glitching in some way that made it look like he had messaged himself. Still, there was something about it that made him pause longer than usual, his thumb hovering over the screen as he stared at the unopened message. It showed no preview, just his name and a single unread notification, as if whatever was inside was waiting deliberately for him to notice it. Eventually, curiosity got the better of him, and he tapped it open. The message was simple, short, and it made his chest tighten instantly. It read, "Don't check the next one." Mark frowned, reading it again as if the words might rearrange themselves into something that made more sense. He let out a quiet breath, shaking his head slightly as he tried to dismiss the unease creeping in. It had to be a joke. Maybe a delayed message he had sent himself without realizing, though he couldn't remember typing anything like that. Before he could think too deeply about it, another notification appeared on his screen, this time immediately below the first. Another message, same sender. His fingers hesitated, hovering just above the screen, as the earlier message echoed in his mind. For a moment, he actually considered ignoring it, locking his phone and moving on with his night. But the curiosity was stronger now, sharper, pulling at him in a way that made it hard to look away. Slowly, almost reluctantly, he tapped the second message. "I told you not to open it." Mark felt a chill crawl up his spine as he stared at the words, his reflection faintly visible in the dark edges of the screen. His heart began to beat a little faster. Not out of full fear yet, but something close to it, something unsettled. He glanced around his apartment instinctively, as if expecting to find someone watching him, but everything looked exactly as it should. Quiet, still, empty. Another notification appeared. This time his breath caught before he even opened it. "You're alone right now, aren't you?" Mark swallowed hard, his grip tightening slightly around the phone as he looked toward the corners of the room. The shadows stretched just a little further than they had before. He didn't answer or type anything back, but the feeling of being observed grew stronger. The silence around him no longer felt neutral. It felt aware. His phone buzzed again. "I can see you." The words hit differently, heavier and more direct, and Mark immediately stood up, his pulse quickening. He turned slowly in place, scanning every inch of the apartment windows, closed doors, locked nowhere obvious to be hiding. And yet the certainty in the message made it impossible to dismiss, like it wasn't trying to scare him, but stating a fact. Another message appeared before he could fully process it. "You're by the table." Mark's eyes snapped down to the exact spot where he had been standing seconds ago, and he stepped back, breath shallow. It wasn't guessing. It wasn't vague. It was precise. His phone buzzed again, faster now, the messages coming one after another. "You moved." A pause. "Good." Mark's chest tightened as he backed further away, his eyes never leaving the screen now, as if looking away might somehow make things worse. His hands were trembling slightly, but he couldn't stop reading. "Don't turn around." The words froze him in place instantly. Every instinct in his body reacted at once. A sharp, overwhelming urge to do exactly the opposite, to spin around and confront whatever might be there, to prove to himself that nothing existed behind him. But something deeper, something colder, told him to listen. His breathing slowed, shallow and controlled, as he stared at the message. Then slowly, another notification appeared. "I said don't turn around." Mark squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, trying to steady himself, but the silence behind him felt heavier now, as if something had shifted closer without making a sound. He could feel it, not physically, not exactly, but in the way the air seemed to press differently against his back. His phone buzzed one last time. "You already did, didn't you?" Mark's eyes opened, and against every warning, every instinct telling him to stay still, he turned, and the next message appeared before he could even process what he saw. "Now it knows you can see it. It's Mythic Murmurs."